everybody. Welcome to the JCC. Yay! So nice to see you all. What a beautiful audience. I'm Stephanie Singer, and I'm the Director of Arts and Ideas, and on behalf of the JCCSF, it's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's program, More is More, with Molly Baz and Holly Haynes. Yay! So we often like to start our programs by asking our audience, show of hands, who's a first-timer here at the JCC? Wow, look at that. Look at all of you newcomers. Welcome. We're so happy you're here. Indulge me for a second, and just take a second, say hello to each other. Turn to your right, turn to your left, introduce yourselves, say hello. Nice. Hi, everybody. Hi. That's so great. Thank you all. We know at the JCC that it's an especially difficult time to show up in the world, and we really sincerely appreciate your choice to come out this evening, celebrate life and delicious food and Molly. And the JCC we hold as a safe space for all to gather in community, and we really mean it. So thank you for coming. I'd like to take a second to just thank our bookstore partner, Omnivore Books, the Bay Area's only culinary bookshop. They've provided your copies of More is More, and Omnivore will be in the atrium afterwards selling additional copies of Molly's cookbooks that are signed, and so please be sure to stick around for that. And I don't need to tell you this, but cookbooks make awesome holiday presents, so keep that in mind with all the holidays coming up. Finally, for those of you wanting even more food inspo, allow me to draw your attention to a couple upcoming culinary programs that we think you'll enjoy. On Thursday, October 26th, that's next week, Leah Koenig, author of the new cookbook Portico, joins Kefiko chef David Nayfeld for a conversation about cooking and feasting in Rome's Jewish kitchen. And it promises to be a really fascinating and fun evening, and there's going to be some delicious treats there. And then on January 29th, we've got Sola El Wele coming with Samin Nosrat. For Sola's, yes, very exciting, and yes, everybody, yes. That's hot off the presses. It's not even on our website yet. So you're really the first to hear about it, and I wanted you to all know, because we knew that you'd be excited. That's going to be January 29th. I recommend that you sign up for a newsletter on our website so you're the first to hear when tickets go on sale, because obviously they're going to sell out in a heartbeat, and we want you to be there. So we are adding new programs all the time. Our website, jccsf.org, check it out, sign up, get on our mailing list. And now on to our program. We've long been fans of best-selling cookbook author, video star, and champion of home cooks everywhere, Molly Baz, and many of you have too. With a signature voice and mad recipe development skills, as well as years of professional cooking under her belt, Molly has won over millions of fans worldwide. Her 2021 debut cookbook, Cook This Book, was a New York Times bestseller, and she's back with a new one, More is More, that taps into the food world's more maximalist urges with a philosophy that encourages fewer exact measurements and a don't stop till it tastes delicious mentality. Or in Molly's own words, it's, quote, all about learning to loosen up in the kitchen, give less fucks, cook with intuition, make mistakes, crank up the heat, season the heck out of your food, make the most of your fridge and pantry, and as always, have a real fun time while doing it. Yeah. Appearing this evening with Molly is culinary creative and absolutely fabulous Holly Haynes, author of How to Eat Your Feelings and itsholly.com. Let's give them a warm welcome to the JCCSF.
Hi, everyone. moment. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Before we get into it, I just want to say a couple of words about where we're at in the world and how meaningful it is to me that you guys all showed up tonight to celebrate me. It's been a little bit of a weird time, obviously, to be celebrating the launch of a book amongst so much loss and tragedy, but I really appreciate the community that is here, and I think that's obviously so valuable at times like these. So thank you for being my community. And I wanted to introduce you to Holly. For those of you who don't know her, I'm a huge fan and was very honored that she agreed to come chat with me tonight. Holly is a recipe developer. She contributes to my recipe club. She's just a brilliant mind in the food world. If you don't follow her already, her handle is It's Holly. Do it now. Such a good follow. She is so creative and multi-talented, and so I'm so happy that she's here interviewing me tonight.
Oh, shucks, thank you.
So yeah, give it up for Holly. We are going to chat for a little bit, and then we're going to play some trivia, and I'm going to give away some stuff. And then we're going to do some questions from you guys, which we preceded, so we'll get to that at the end. Okay, that's all. Here we go.
First of all, congratulations on 2-time New York bestselling.
Thank you.
cookbook. I am absolutely obsessed with this book, beginning with the rules section, play by the rules.
Yeah.
I find that I am most creative when I work within constraints. Like, give me some guides, but don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I'm an independent woman, and how
Yeah,
dare
you
you?
are.
So let's talk a little about the rules.
Yeah. So this book is about loosening up, as mentioned a few moments ago, and is the follow-up to my first book, which didn't encourage loosening up, because I feel like it's really important to be equipped with the fundamentals and really great technique and a great understanding of flavor before you sort of allow yourself to get loose in the kitchen. And so Cook This Book was all about, like, how do we chop onions? How do we get a good sear on our steak? What does medium rare look like? What does it feel like? And how do we build flavor? And this book is about how do we cook more intuitively and rely less on measurements and my precise recipe development and more on your intuition in the kitchen. And interestingly enough, I think that it's important to have some like ground rules as you enter into this like new exploratory, a little bit more improvisational phase of cooking. And so the beginning of the book in the front matter has a whole section called Play by the Rules, as she mentioned, and it's got just like a bunch of key learnings that I feel like I have taken or gathered with me throughout my career, starting with my time working in restaurants and all of the like little learnings that have trickled down from that experience and into my experience as now like a professional home cook, I guess you would say. And so the rules are things like very simple. If it doesn't, I think the rule is if it ain't yummy, fix it.
Fix it.
And so this book is about like empowering you to decide that you know how to make something delicious and not rely so much on me to deliver it for you. Like I can do the best job that I possibly can at recipe development, and I think I did, and I tried really hard, and they're really well tested, and I love all the recipes. But also, I can't predict all the craziness that's happening in your kitchen, and I know there's a lot of it. Like, kitchens are nutty places. And so when things don't end up exactly as they are meant to, or you can tell that something's a little bit off, it's on you to figure out how to take it that, like, extra 10% and get it to a place where you're like, damn, that was good. And so the rest of the rules in the book will sort of, like, help you get there, and there are ways to learn how to crank it up in the kitchen.
I think my favorite rule is if you're going to use it, use it.
Yeah.
Because she be using it. So, like, read through recipes and I'm like, oh, I can tell this is under seasoned. Like a quarter teaspoon of salt is not doing anything for this pound of meat. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And when I read through your recipes, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't have to double the garlic.
Yes.
Speaking of garlic, I made dinner
I know.
for some friends last week out of More is More. And I used your goes with, I started with the garlic bread and said goes with the moles balls. So I made the moles balls and that goes with the drunken cacio e pepe.
It does.
So I made all of those and the bruschetta. You
Yeah.
know how many cloves of garlic I used, Molly?
I don't.
48. 48 cloves of garlic. 4 dishes. So when she said, if you're gonna use it,
Yeah.
use it, she used it.
I'm just like, if we're gonna put an ingredient in there, let's taste it.
Thank
you know what I
you.
mean? Like 1 clove of garlic? Are you serious? No.
It's like when a dessert recipe has half a teaspoon of vanilla extra. Like, what are we
Okay,
doing?
this is the vanilla bean queen over here.
You know we measure vanilla with our hearts.
Yes. Yeah, so there's a lot of garlic in this book. We thought about trying to count all of the garlic cloves in the whole book, and then when she got 3 recipes in and there was 48, I was like, abort.
Yeah.
This is gonna take too long and it's frankly embarrassing. You don't have to use all the garlic.
Use
but
all the garlic.
I think you should.
But another one of the rules is using the same ingredient in multiple ways in a dish.
Yeah.
So like the garlic bread uses the garlic butter and also roasted garlic. There are 12 cloves of garlic. No, 24 cloves of garlic. 24 cloves of garlic in the garlic bread.
Yeah.
But used in different ways.
Yeah, so that's like a big learning, I think, or something that it's a philosophy that I use, not even realizing that I'm doing it when I'm cooking at home, which is that if I have red onions in front of me and I'm going to make like a chili, let's say, and every great chili starts with like sweated or sauteed vegetables, I'm chopping my onions up, I'm throwing them in there. The first thing that I'm thinking about is how else can this onion benefit me in this recipe? And instead of putting all 2 chopped onions in the chili and sauteing them for 10 minutes, I set half of an onion aside, I thinly slice it, I throw a little bit of lemon juice or apple cider vinegar or some kind of acid on it and a pinch of salt, and I let it quick pickle. And by the end of the process, I have really nice, sweetly caramelized onions in my chili, which give it like sweetness. And then I have these pickled, raw, bitey onions on top. And I didn't use any more ingredients, but I diversified the flavor using only 1. And so there's a lot of that you'll find in this book, which is, for me, really the philosophy of more is more. It's not about like, how many ingredients can we pack in here? It's not meant to be like stoner food. But it's like, let's
Not
be
to say
smart.
that it doesn't
Nothing
work.
wrong with it. And frankly, like, if you got high and hit this cookbook, you'd have a time. And you should. But that's not the whole philosophy of it.
I'm just saying it works for both.
Yeah. So anyway.
I also, speaking of herbs, I appreciate that you don't you don't leave me with 3/4 of a bunch of dill at the end of a recipe, because
Correct.
2 tablespoons of dill, and what are we doing?
No,
Yeah.
we don't do that. So in this book, we use whole bunches of herbs only. So there'll be no recipes that ask for a tablespoon and then you just like leave the rest and it wilts and you're like, Molly, what do I do with the rest? No, everything goes in. I'm a huge proponent of herbs, as probably many of you know if you've cooked any of my recipes, because they bring in this element of freshness that is just like so hard to get in other ways. And so if you're not cooking with lots of herbs already, that's like a real surefire way to just level up. Always keep herbs on hand.
Yes. Let's talk about your pantry.
Okay.
Funny story.
Yeah.
In the book, you'll see a pie chart of things that Molly has in her
Yeah.
pantry. The smallest slice of that pie is
I can
chocolate.
show you.
It is a sliver. And
Yeah.
the first time I met Molly, I brought her chocolate.
Yeah, she did.
That's my bad.
She did. But yeah, so the pantry, this is a pie chart in the front of the book that basically has all of the most used ingredients. I love that you guys are with me.
Which page is she?
I feel like I'm giving a lecture.
Turn to page.
Okay, correct. Page 43. Everybody please turn. And this has all of the most used ingredients broken out by their proportion to the whole of the pie. And so you will see that there are a lot of lemons, and that's on brand. There's lemons in a lot of these recipes. You will also see that there are a lot of pickles and a lot of sesame seeds, and there's a lot of parm and a lot of dill. And probably a lot of you, that comes as no surprise to. And then there's this little tiny sliver that says pepperoni, and then in parentheses, not enough, because I was disappointed in myself for not adding more pepperoni to my book. When I did the tally, I was like, oh man, I only put that in one recipe, but if you do want to cook the recipe, it's the pepperoni fried rice.
Yes.
And it's fucking good. So it's holding its weight. So yeah, it's a great tool. That pie chart is a great, first thing you do when you get home tonight, this weekend, hit the pie chart, order everything that's in the pie chart, and you'll be pretty well set for the rest.
And a pound of garlic. Just
Yeah.
Just go ahead and get the peeled garlic. Don't
Yeah,
even,
honestly.
Yeah, it's fine. No
You
one's
won't have
gonna,
enough time.
We won't tell anyone that you got peeled garlic.
Yeah.
Yeah, 48 clothes. 48 clothes.
Never forget.
Continuing on to another illustration in the book, the
Yeah.
Saltville spectrum.
Okay, I'll demo.
Which page are we on?
I don't know, but it's somewhere in the
Oh, it's right
front.
after that.
She knows this book.
Yeah.
The Saltville spectrum is here.
There.
Okay, yes. So,
This is such a great tool to be able to modify recipes based on what you have or to switch up flavors based on what you want.
Totally.
So I make a Caesar salad, and instead of anchovies, I use a Filipino fish sauce. It's patis.
Yes.
So fish sauce is right on that spectrum, and it's such a great way to, perk up a recipe that you love.
yeah. So if you cook this book, that there's a whole section on salts. The first one to say I love the stuff. And that hasn't changed.
We both carry salt in our wallets.
That's true, something we share. Holly showed me just backstage. She was like, I just want you to know I also have salt in my wallet. And she pulled out 2 little tins, one that was Malden and one that was Jacobson. She has both brands.
You
I was
can't
like,
be caught out in these streets unseasoned.
oh my God, no, it's scary out there.
Please.
And so this section is, the salt learnings in this book are meant to sort of expand your understanding of salt beyond diamond kosher salt, which I've talked enough about, I think, at this point. And to realize that salt comes in many forms, and there are a lot of ingredients in your pantry that are already highly seasoned or salty and can be used and bring a whole nother layer of flavor. So if you're thinking about kind of the spectrum of flavor in a dish and how seasoning and salt is going to play into that, but you want to play around, grab the capers out of the fridge and try chopping some of those capers up and throwing them in your pan after you roast a chicken and making a little pan sauce and bringing in some seasoning there versus just seasoning it with salt. So this is just meant to kind of expand your mind and think about salt in all ways. And the spectrum goes from least salty to saltiest so that you don't accidentally overseason, which you probably won't. Food needs a lot of salt.
It does.
Yeah. Nobody knows that.
Another one of my favorite parts of the book is your last meal for the living.
Oh, yeah.
I am obsessed with people's last meal
meals.
requests. I don't know why.
Yeah.
How has your last meal evolved over time?
It's a great question. It feels like, so there's a menu that's now in print in the book, which is cool, which is called My Last Meal, it's My Last Meal menu. And it's cool because I think in 2 years I will look back and be like, what the hell? I wanted in my last meal.
Right.
But it's a good marker of where I am and where my palate is and how I'm eating and cooking right now. And I remember when I first started getting really into food and cooking is when truffles were everything.
Yeah.
And truffle butter and truffle oil was everywhere, and everyone was having truffle fries. And I was in Italy, and I went to this little restaurant and had truffled tagliatelle, and I thought I died and gone to heaven. And so that was on my last meal menu for a really long time. But then I ate so many truffle fries that it got kicked off because I tired of it.
Funny.
But there's a whole sort of, oh look, it's already open to
Oh,
it.
look at that.
This is everyone eating the last meal with me. There's a whole menu here of like where my last meal is right now. And one of the recipes that is in More is More made it to the last meal menu, which is huge for that recipe. And it's called the last meal scallops. And they're super simple and inspired by a trip that I took to France, and I went to this like really classic, bustling French seafood brasserie called Les Vapeurs in Normandy. And we just like sent it, and we had like the seafood tower and the everything, and it was really over the top. And the last thing we had was these scallops that were seared until golden brown, the way a proper scallop should be, and then just drenched in this bright green parsley garlic butter. And I tried to like glean a little information from them, but they wouldn't give it up, so I was like, I'll just figure it out myself. Turns out it was just garlic parsley butter. Like, pretty straightforward
It's
stuff.
always simple.
It's the simple stuff.
It's always simple and just well seasoned.
Yeah, and it's just, again, there was a lot of garlic and a lot of parsley in that butter. And so it felt very More is More to me, even though there were so few ingredients in that dish, but they were like maxed out, and every single one of them was really holding its own. Nice I Love Salt tea, by the way. I just spotted you. And so that recipe made it on the menu, and I think you should make it, and maybe it will be on your last meal menu as well. What's on yours? She was like, whoa, curveball.
There's a chicken liver pate that I had in Grand Rapids, Michigan,
Okay.
that tastes exactly like when you lick your fingers after eating Cheetos.
Oh my God. Why does chicken liver always taste like that?
I don't know, but that is
It's
like
like cheesy and funky.
that's on there. And,
Amazing. Vanilla something?
yeah, some kind of excessive vanilla bean custardy, milky thing that I probably can't digest, but we'll try anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I plan weekends around milkshakes.
Yeah. Holly loves vanilla so much. It's like
I love a
absurd.
vanilla bean.
Yeah, she really
I'm
does.
a hoe for vanilla. Another one of my favorite features in this book that when I write my cookbook, I'm absolutely stealing is the QR codes.
Yeah.
Not only full video walkthroughs for some of these recipes, but the audio QR is insane. Like, what a great way to provide accessibility to people. Not only convenience, but accessibility. And I think that's huge. And that's why I'm stealing it.
Yeah, and you may. So the audio QR codes are a new development in this book, which I am so hyped about. Basically, what they are full recipe walkthroughs that I have guided. So you'll see it, there's like 30 of them in the book, and you'll open it up with your phone and you pop in, ideally, like earbuds, and I will walk you through the recipe from start to finish. So I'll talk to you about like everything you need to pull out of the pantry and out of the fridge, and all of the equipment that you should make sure that you have before you start. And then I tell you a little bit about the recipe and the history of it. And then I remind you about the things you need to pull out of the fridge because you probably forgot. And then I go into this full guided walkthrough. And I did it because I feel like video content, which I'm obviously a huge proponent of, I've been doing video content for a long time, is great in terms of kind of giving you like a big picture look at a recipe, but doesn't actually hold your hand because it's nearly impossible to really cook with like a YouTube video. I've seen people do it and you're pausing like every 30 seconds because obviously a video is 12 minutes and a recipe takes an hour. And I thought like there's gotta be a way for me to get in people's kitchens if I can't actually physically be there via audio. And so it's a really cool new device and functionality in the book that I think turns out to really change the game in terms of the way that it allows you to focus on cooking. So my husband has done a lot of these as a tester of mine. And I remember the first time that I was like, hey, will you just test this out? Like, and I just sat there and watched him, which was super annoying of me. And I just was like staring at him the whole time. But I watched him cook through the whole thing. He made, what was the first one that you made, Ben? Where are you? The Brussels sprouts, maybe? Oh, the pepperoni fried rice. The one, the only. And he pulled out his AirPods at the end of the 45 minutes or whatever and was like, that was fucking insane. And he was like, I'm never cooking anyway again. And he just was so in it. He was so in his cooking zone, and he is not a recipe follower. He's actually really bad at it. And he just kind of he'll reference, and then he'll just be like, yeah. And I'm like, whoa, 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 back over here. But in the walkthrough, I was just there holding his hand every step of the way, and he was so focused and undistracted by other things. And so I really, really, really want you guys to use the audio cook-alongs because I think they're special.
They're so good.
And then there's video walkthroughs as well.
Yeah.
So if you're like, fuck that, you can just watch
show
the
me.
videos.
Right.
And those are attached to recipes that I think are have some techniques that are really weird and fumbly to explain in words on a page, like how to fold dough in the focaccia. It's just how am I gonna say that in words? You're gonna be so confused. Watch the video. And so that's what the whole sort of technology element of the book is about. Now, I need to figure out what I'm going to do for the next book because I just keep one-upping.
Yeah.
And now I'm it's going to be VR.
It's like a hologram.
Yeah, I'm going to pop out of the book.
Listen,
That'd be
AI.
really cute. Or
the
tuna could pop out. We'll work on it in a few years.
Yeah. Yeah, the AI is getting crazy.
Yeah, it's getting
You might get
crazy.
a little, I like the hologram.
I like the hologram too. I like it too.
If you know me in real life, you know that I can't cook for myself, which is very odd for a recipe developer. I can't do it. I'm cooking all day, other things for the internet, and the idea of making myself dinner is just absolute trash.
Yeah.
So what I appreciate about the goes with section
Yeah.
for the recipes is eliminating my decision fatigue.
Yeah.
Because just tell me what to cook with what, and then let
Yeah.
me do it.
Yeah, I didn't do that in my first book, and I kept getting all of these people being like, Molly, I'm making the pastrami roast chicken tonight. What should I serve with it? Help, help, help.
Yeah.
And I was like, I should probably just put that in the next book so that people aren't frantically trying to DM me about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want recipe pairing suggestions, they are throughout the book, and you can kind of create full meals around it. And
It gives a very choose your own adventure vibe.
yeah,
When you read the heading, you're like, oh, I could make the Mall's balls with
yeah,
this.
and that's why your meal ended up the way it did.
48 cloves.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let it go.
No, she's not.
I actually documented the 48 cloves on my Instagram.
Yeah, but now that you all follow her, you'll see it.
Yeah.
At It's Holly. I repeat.
Let's talk a little bit about growing up and cooking.
Yeah.
What is your strongest food memory from childhood?
I can answer that. At first, I will say that for better or for worse, I did not grow up in a super food-obsessed, food-centric household. My parents cooked a little bit, but it wasn't, I was not passed down any skills. My mother is not a great cook. And
Did she have a signature dish?
no, not even on that level. There was nothing that we were like, this is your signature.
No.
She would feed me, and this is going to answer your question. A typical dinner in our household was a chicken cutlet, which love, and a bowl of frozen peas, because she was like, you must eat your greens, but she didn't cook the peas. She would just take them from the freezer and put them in a ramekin and serve them to
Molly?
me. Yes. That is torture, by the way.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Traumatizing childhood. She claims that I asked for them frozen, but I'm like, I'm not a psycho. And I don't like frozen peas to this day.
Right.
So in any case,
Understandable.
it was always a little piece of meat and some frozen frickin' peas and then a glass of milk. Because I think those were the days when it was everybody has to drink a glass of milk. And I really didn't like the milk. I still don't like to drink a glass of milk. I don't like the lactic like film that I get in my mouth. Sorry. But it's very distinct and troubling for me. But I always had to drink the damn milk. And so one day, my dad was sitting next to me, and I was like, why aren't you drinking milk? And he was like, well, I'm an adult, and I drink beer. And he was drinking a Rolling Rock. And I was like, well, that's not fair. And I was like, let me try your beer. And he gave me a sip, and I was like, that's delicious. And so he was like, well, you can have some beer if you drink your milk. And so he spiked my milk with Rolling Rock. And
Oh, doesn't that make cheese? What is?
yeah, like, I don't know, it's probably curdled. That's my dad being like,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay. And so I drank the milk spiked with beer and loved it. And
Ma'am.
so that was how I got my milk growing up.
Beer milk.
Yeah. And it's delicious. I stand by it.
Would you try that today?
I will. I will try it tonight.
I will try it with you.
Okay. We're doing it.
Sprinkle a little lactate
Anyway, so
on
for
there.
any of you guys who have kids, that's a great way to get your kids to drink it. You
Beer
can tell
and
me said that. So that's probably the strongest and weirdest food memory I have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish I had a grandma who was like, here's how we make beef stroganoff or something. But I
Yeah,
didn't.
same.
So I'm going to have to be that for my family.
Did you watch cooking shows growing up?
Not really, but I read cooking magazines, which checks out because then my all-time goal in my career was to work at a food magazine, and I guess figured out how to do that and worked at Bon Appetit. But growing up, I was obsessed with gourmet. I don't know how old I was exactly when I started, and I think I was reading gourmet before I realized that I was into food. Like, it kind of predated my interest in cooking, but it was just an interest in like the yummy stuff on the pages. And then later, once I started cooking professionally, I was like thinking about where can my career go in food, if not in restaurants, which I had burned out from.
Yeah.
Did you work in restaurants?
Absolutely. I worked at Subway in high school.
Hell yeah.
She
One of
was
the greats.
she was a sandwich artist.
I love that. I mean, the architecture of a sandwich is so important.
And now I'm so picky about my sandwiches. I will take a sandwich apart and put it back together if it's unevenly.
Because there's a right way and a wrong way.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's architecture. So yeah, in terms of like food culture, I was reading food magazines, and then sadly Gourmet folded, and then Bon Appetit happened, and I worked there, so that was cool.
Yeah. I grew up, instead of cartoons, I was watching PBS cooking shows. That's
I
why I
love
asked.
that.
So that's how I learned how to like cook and chop and that kind of
Love
thing.
PBS.
What do you listen to when you cook? Do you listen to music? Do you have a podcast on? Love Island in the background? What's going on?
No, I don't watch TV or listen to podcasts really because I think so much when I cook that like it's just too many voices. And so music is really like background music for me. Ben, my husband, like runs the Sonos in our house because we both work from home, and so he's kind of like, we have one account, and I always get bumped. So if I want to listen to music, I pretty much just have to say like, babes, can we listen to music? And then he curates something.
I love that.
And so he listens to a lot of different kinds of music, but I think like if you walk into our house on any given day, there's like some R&B or hip hop happening, mostly R&B. But if he weren't there and I were just listening to music and like cooking for myself, I would be playing like Dolly Parton radio is like a go-to where I'm just like, I'm having a good time, like it's chill and like joyful, and that's so like the energy of cooking for me.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening when I'm alone.
Is there a recipe in this book that you're looking forward to see people make the most?
Let's see. I think it's interesting because at the beginning of my tour, like day 1, day 2, I still was very unclear on like what people were going to be most drawn to in the book. And now that we're 7 days into it being in people's hands, I can see what's happening. And what's happening is, and this is no surprise, people love pasta. And so they're making the drunken cacio e pepe.
I knew that.
They are making the bolognese. They are making the crispy orecchiette, and they're making the meatballs, which is what I expected. I
Yeah.
thought that this is the Mall's Balls. I expected that this would be one of the hits of the book, and I think that it
They're
is
so
turning
good.
out to be. But there are a lot of recipes in here that maybe you wouldn't just hit otherwise unless I told you to, and so I'm going to tell you what some of those are. So I'm just not going to go to the carbs chapter because I know you guys will cook through those on your own volition. Oh, those are really good, but you'll probably cook them anyway. Okay, this is the Caesared œuf mayo, which is just like a fancy French eggs with mayonnaise, basically. So it's like a deconstructed deviled egg, but it has a Caesar-ish dressing over it, and so it's like a Caesar deviled egg. And that's a really special one, and it's the only Caesar-y recipe in the book, so you have to make it. And then this is one that I feel like people won't make because people are like weird about clams. Are you guys weird about clams?
No, we love a clam.
Okay, obsessed. This is the gingery clams with chili crisp and tofu. And so you like saute ginger and garlic an entire head.
That's 12.
Yeah, there we go. In butter, and then you steam the clams and add heavy cream, and it makes this like very pungent, creamy broth. And then right before you serve, you scoop silken tofu and just like drop it into the broth, and it warms through and provides like a little bit of texture. And then it gets drizzled in chili crisp, which, by the way, hot garlic, Mama Teeves, they are in the audience right now, I think, right? Yeah, that's my favorite. My favorite chili crisp is made by Mama Teeves, and it's featured here on this page. And so when you make the gingery clams, because you guys all love clams, you should make it with that stuff, because that's how it was intended to be made. So that, I mean, I could go on. There's a lot of recipes in here that I think you should make. Probably a lot of people will make the Rarebit mac and greens, because that's mac and cheese. That's like definitely the sluttiest recipe in here. It's intense and really yummy, but just brace yourself for that one. And then in the dessert section, I'm just gonna go through the whole book now.
Yeah.
I'm getting so excited. Something that I think is really fun is the ooey gooey carrot cake. And so you guys, if you know what like a St. Louis style ooey gooey butter cake
Yeah.
is, this would be the mashup of that and the greatest cake in the world, which is carrot cake. And has dates and this like date brown sugar kind of like goo instead of the butter goo. That's good.
Since I am about to dive into this process
Yeah.
of writing a cookbook
Yeah.
that is
Which
not
we're excited about.
self-published.
No.
I mean, my first cookbook was like file print.
Yeah.
Like,
doing it-
Here you go.
We're doing it
But
proper.
we're doing it proper this time. What is your process for developing a recipe? What does it start with? Is it the flavor? Is it a technique?
It's sort of different every time,
Right.
but the best way I can describe it is that my whole life is spent thinking about food and what I'm going to eat next. And then when I get to it and I start to eat it, I'm thinking about what I'm eating, and I'm just sort of like filing away little notes in my brain about what I'm eating. And I think it's kind of annoying to eat with me sometimes. But those little notes and those like sound bites always sort of then find their way into a dish down the road. I have a notes app on my phone that just has like some real chicken scratch chaos in it, where I will be at a restaurant and like maybe I just had, for example, I was at Zuni Cafe today. and had a plate of anchovies and celery and parm, and like maybe I would write a note to myself that was like anchovies and celery, like, and then down the line somewhere it will turn itself into a recipe. And so I guess the ideas all just sort of like end up gelling together and coming together into some sort of a concept, and then I get into the kitchen and start to cook. And I used to, when I recipe developed for Bon Appetit magazine, I don't know why this has changed, but I used to write the whole recipe first out on the computer, like before I even walked into the kitchen, just to like really walk myself through what I thought was about to go down. And then I would go into the kitchen and sort of like follow my own recipe that I had written and adapt things as I went. For anyone who's just starting to recipe develop, like I think that's a really sound way to start, because it allows you to collect your thoughts before you get into the kitchen when things just start to just get chaotic. And you can really like focus on what it is that you think the process of the recipe should be. Now I think that I have so much experience developing recipes under my belt, I can be a bit looser about it, and so I'll just go into the kitchen, start cooking, and I just note take the entire time. And the recipes often take like 2 or 3 times is, I would say, the average. And then there's like some outliers that take a lot longer, which are annoying and you should just trash. Yeah, it's a waste of time. But that's kind of my process. Is that different from yours? Because you obviously develop a ton of recipes as well.
That's pretty much how I start. I do a rough set of measurements.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm baking, so
Yeah, you gotta.
it's a little bit more sciencey, you know,
Yeah.
leavening, blah, blah,
You
blah.
gotta be precise.
A little bit, yeah. There is room to wiggle in there, though.
Yeah.
With the right, anyway.
Yeah.
I usually start with the list of ingredients, then go into the kitchen and adjust as I'm cooking.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the process of the recipe development, and then we could probably do a whole nother like hour-long segment on what writing a cookbook is.
Yeah, because help.
Yeah.
And which part of the process would you say is the most gratifying? I think I know the answer. And which part of the process do you dread the most, so I can prepare myself?
Okay, yeah. We'll start with the one I dread. So many times that I have to read every word of the book once it's done, it is excruciating.
Yeah.
Because like you write it all and you're really psyched about it, and then your editor reads it and they have a million notes and you're like, okay, these are all great notes, totally, it's getting better, and then you send it back to them, and then it comes back and they're like, more notes, but this time it's like, can we switch up this word, and is the spelling right on this, and you can't miss a thing because there are a lot of typos, like it's just a natural part of writing a manuscript, and then they do it again. And they keep sending it to you, and you keep responding, and then it keeps coming back with more queries, and it is like crazy making. So I've read every word in this book like 10 times after writing them, and that is, like, it's very tedious because you're like kind of sick of hearing your own voice. You're like, that head note is not funny anymore. Like, that joke wasn't funny. I sound like a dumbass. Like, so good luck with that.
So excited.
And the best part is, and I was just reminded of this the other day, is actually like this moment right now, which is when the book is no longer only mine and it's all of ours, and you guys start to cook the recipes, and I'm like, yes, this is why I read it 10 times, you know? And it makes me so happy to see you guys all cooking the recipes and to see like how they're turning out in your kitchens and like how they look a little different, and when like you decide to use Asian pears instead of honeydew in the salad, and I'm like, oh, brilliant, and it's everything to me. And so you spend so much time, I've been working on this book for 2 years, you spend so much time just having like a singular relationship with it, and then all of a sudden it's like everybody's best friend, and like that sharing of it is epic.
I love that you encourage people to make the recipes their own.
Yeah.
Like, make it, but if you don't like something,
Yeah.
like, You're not beholden to, no one's holding a gun to your head to use half a cup of Parmesan.
No, and that's why, like, in the book, there will be in the ingredient list measurements, like I'll say half a cup of parm, and then you'll see in the actual body of the recipe that I'll say, like, add a handful of parm, and, like, give it a stir and a splash of pasta water, and then, like, add another handful, and that's meant to encourage this connecting with your hands as your tools, and, like, measuring cups and spoons are actually just hands and fingers for a cook who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so that's meant to sort of, like, get you comfortable with, like, what does a handful of parm taste like, look like, feel like? How does it behave in a dish? Do I really need to go and grate parm into a measuring cup and, like, level it out and add it to the pasta pot? No.
You don't.
And so I hope that you guys use the recipes as guides, and also you might like parm even more than I do, and you might be like, I think it needs more, Molly, and I think that you should add it.
Yeah, you would be correct.
Yeah, you would be
For
correct.
you.
For you.
Yes.
And that's the part about recipe development that's so interesting, is, like, I think that these are great recipes as developed here, but that's because I only have my own singular palate to reference. And you guys all have different palates. And so it's a really hard thing to communicate in recipes because it's so scary to be, like, freeballing. But it's so valuable to, like, know your own palate, and then even before it comes up in a recipe, be like, I know there's not going to be enough lemon, or I know that Molly loves pickles, and, like, that's just way too much vinegar for me. Like, I'm not going to put all those pickles, and you should do that. So I hope that this book teaches you to do so.
Let's do a trivia break.
Oh yeah, let's do trivia. Okay. I have some of them written down.
I
Is
have
this stuff
questions.
under? Okay.
All right.
We have merch. Okay, so for the first question, we've got this gorgeous fried mortadella, Morty D, Sando tea, and one of you will get it.
Am I asking?
Yeah, ask away.
Just shout it out if you know it.
And also, here's how the rules go. If everybody shouts it out, nobody gets it. Okay? Because sometimes that happens, and it's like, I don't know where to throw it.
All right. What was Molly's supper club called in college?
This is a deep cut. And it's an embarrassing one. Yes. I just had, like, a brain fart.
Nice.
God. The private dining experience.
The private dining experience. What is Molly's least favorite pasta shape?
Okay, so that's one of the ones where nobody gets it. And good job.
All right. Let's go a little bit deeper cut.
Yeah.
What is the secret ingredient in Molly's molten omelet? Oh,
Yes. Yes. I think it was you back there.
yeah.
Yeah, did you say it? Yeah. Okay, I can't throw that far. So, Sophia. Okay, she's in the back, all the way in the back. And she's gonna wave. Good job. The tofu in the omelet is, like, a weird discovery that I made when developing, where I just was like, how do I hack an omelet? Like, how do I make it more custardy, more fluffy, less scary? And for some reason, silken tofu sort of popped into my head as, like, this is sort of the optimal texture of an omelet. And I add tofu to so many other things. Like, it's in my vegan ranch dressing, and it just adds, like, body and creaminess. And it's so, like, mild in flavor. And so I threw it in a blender with some eggs, and turns out it works. And so the molten omelet doesn't taste like tofu, but it's got tofu, extra protein, nice and fluffy, nice and custardy in the omelet.
All right.
Oh, I should have one now? Okay, let me
Yeah.
see. Okay. I didn't know this till today, but what is Tuna's sign? Tuna, my dog. Oh, wait, no, everyone's just guessing random ones. No, shut it down, shut it down.
She's a Cancer.
Yeah, okay. But you guys didn't know that, because neither did I. I'm not really a big
How
astrological.
old is Tuna?
5. Do you want a t-shirt? Yes. He's 5. The More is More tour. Well done.
That's all the merch.
All right, you want to do?
All right, it's time
What
for
time
your
is it?
questions.
Oh,
It's
wait,
8.
yeah. It's 8. Okay, cool.
Question time.
Yeah, these are from the audience you guys filled out. We'll get to some of them.
All right. Which recipe took you the longest to develop for More is More?
Okay. Let's talk about the cornbread in the book, which I will never make again because I made it 15 times.
Right.
And that's because I had a vision for the cornbread that I was sure I could execute, and that was a skillet-baked cornbread with a layer of coconut custard suspended inside it, so that when you cut in, the coconut custard would ooze out. I know, sounds amazing. And I have had other cornbread recipes with like a heavy cream custard in it, suspended inside, and it worked. And so I was like, surely I can do this with coconut. And I was wrong, and I tried again and again and again, and I just kept banging my head on the wall. And I was like, after the 5th time, I was like, I'm doing it again. And I just kept going and trying different ratios of cornmeal, and maybe the batter needs to be thicker because the custard is sinking, and maybe it needs to have, instead of buttermilk, something like yogurt in the batter because that won't soak the crumb as much, and whatever, blah-de-blah. And I just kept going and kept going despite my better judgment, because normally, like as I was saying, I'll work on a recipe 3 times, 4 times, and then at the 5th time, it's like, it's just not meant to be. Like, if you can't hack it by the 5th round, probably something's not right here. But I didn't do that, and I made it 15 times, and on the 15th time, I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to serve the custard on the side. And so the recipe in the book does not have a custard suspended in it, but it has a really yummy coconut lime, like curd custard on the side. And I'm pretty disappointed, to be honest. But it's a very good, very moist cornbread. So we have that.
WWWC, what would Willett cook?
Willet. Oh, he does not like me calling on him. Okay, what would Willett cook? Well, Willett does cook his own recipe in the book. He has a debut. He developed a recipe for buffalo chicken tenders. They're called Benny's Tender Tenders because he thinks that they're healthy. He was like, I want healthy buffalo wings. Like, that's not like bar food. And I was like, okay. And so we ended up making chicken cutlets, which are fried in oil, and then drenched in Frank's Red Hot in butter. So, like, literally the same thing. But they make him feel really healthy because we eat it on top of a salad. And that's probably his favorite recipe in the book. Am I right? So that's what Willett would cook.
What's your beef with penne?
What's my beef with penne? Great question. I don't like that it's really smooth on the outside and that it has like these angles. I like a rigatoni because it's like this, and it's got the ridges and the sauce like kind of sits into it. There's just something like is not like cosmically right about penne to me. Like, I really don't know how to describe it, but I'm just like, whoa, no. I will never eat penne.
Hilarious.
But I love orecchiette, best pasta shape ever. And there's a recipe in the book.
With the collard
Is it right
greens.
here?
Yeah.
With,
That's on my list.
Yeah, there's a recipe in the book for crispy orecchiette with sausage and collard ragu. And it's like a play on sausage and broccoli rabe with orecchiette, which is a classic Italian dish. but it's got spicy Italian sausage, collard greens, Calabrian chilies, a little bit of torn burrata over it because it's spicy at the end. But here's the fun part. The orecchiette, after it's boiled, you drain it, and then you add it to a nonstick skillet with a little bit of olive oil, and you fry them, or like sizzle them in the olive oil. So the little ears get like crispy at the edges, but then they're still chewy and al dente on the inside. So it's just like this like insane multi-textural eating experience in a bowl of pasta.
We love a texture.
You were asking me about penne, now I'm talking about orecchiette.
Everything but penne.
Yeah,
yes.
everything but.
That's the beef.
So that's a
penne.
recipe you should make like early on. It's special.
As a sandwich expert, is a hot dog a sandwich?
Okay, we had a debate about this
Yeah.
just recently. I say yes because my definition of a sandwich is that it's got bread on two sides at the very least, and that the bread be leavened. And so, unfortunately, a hamburger is also a sandwich per that definition.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
some people don't like that answer.
that's true. What do you think the best bean is?
I'm going to throw this back to Holly because Holly works at a bean farm.
I volunteer at a organic bean farm in San Diego.
Like, has anything ever been cuter? Ever. She
I
loves
was-
beans.
I love beans. My favorite bean,
Yeah.
the best bean, is the Alabama black-eyed butter bean.
Like, what is
And
that?
also and maybe the Hopi red lima. I went through a
Again.
thing, and we do bean tastings at the farm where we just make, I know.
A dream. She's living a dream.
We make like 10 different kinds of beans the same way, and then we taste them, and we taste the pot liquor, and then we, decide what our favorite
So good.
beans
So
are.
you really know.
I do love a bean.
I guess for me, like, my
That's what she
favorite, my answer is so dumb compared to yours. I'm like, gigante beans.
No, those
which
are
is,
great.
like, not very specific.
No, the
You're-
big ones.
Yeah, the big ones. The
You like
big beans. I like big beans.
I like big beans, and I cannot lie.
Cannot.
I also enjoy a big bean. All right. I set myself up. I'm sorry. Okay. Why red?
Woo.
And what's the next color?
Okay, well, I can't share that. I know obviously everyone thinks it's going to be yellow. I've been using the primary colors for some time now, and I think that people don't realize that the reason that I have primary colors as like my brand colors, if you will, is because my whole like philosophy about cooking is, or like what I'm here to do in the world is teach people how to cook, the fundamentals, the basics, and to me, those colors represent like the first colors that you learn, the primary colors in school. You learn the shapes and the colors, and like you get the red square and the blue triangle, and so I thought that they were super symbolic of like the importance of laying the groundwork and like a sound education in cooking, and not just like helter-skelter going for it. And so the first one was blue, and this one is red because of that, and then naturally the next one would be yellow, but that also feels really predictable, so I think I won't do that. But just know that it should be yellow. It just won't.
What is your least favorite food and why? Mine is dill sad face.
Who said that?
Raise your hand.
Out. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I hate chocolate, so I'm just going to get it out there. And I was born this way, and I had nothing to do with it, and it's my least favorite thing about myself. I also really don't care for goat cheese.
Wow.
Wow, let's go! I love this.
I am appalled.
Yeah, it does not taste good to me. Like, it tastes like some funky stuff. And so I don't really like goat milk at all. And so like anything in the goat and even kind of sheep, honestly, although I like
fair.
pecorino, is just like funqua for me.
I hate bell peppers.
Oh God, hate them. I thought that was a given.
Thank you.
A green bell pepper.
Oh my
is like-
God, the devil's work.
Yeah. Terrible.
Like, you just want to make everything taste like funky ass bell pepper now?
Oh my God.
Disgusting.
Disgusting.
Delete it, drag it to the trash.
Eliminate.
All right, sorry. for my bell pepper rampage.
Yeah.
If you could only eat one dish from More is More for the rest of your life, which would it be?
Okay, I know. There is a recipe that I make every time I am either hungover or sad, and it makes me feel really good. And it's called the Cozy Bowl,
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
it's
cute.
maybe the simplest recipe in the book, but it's probably the one that we've made. Bye, bye. Doesn't love the Cozy Bowl, but that's fine. It's the simplest recipe in the book. It's literally a bowl of buttered rice, which, raise your hand if you love. Okay. With soft scrambled eggs, lightly pickled cucumbers, and sesame seeds. And it's just like the only thing that can comfort me. And so I would choose comfort for the rest of my life if I had to choose.
Yes.
I think there's sesame oil in the eggs. Yeah, there's sesame oil in the
Yeah,
eggs.
that sounds good.
It's a little nutty.
So you're officially an LA girl now.
Yeah.
LA girl. Is there any East Coast dish or restaurant that you miss?
Dish, not really. Like, I feel like LA's got mostly everything that New York does. We do have great bagels. I miss my neighborhood restaurant in Brooklyn. So when Ben and I lived in Greenpoint, we found this restaurant called Bernie's, which many of you may know of, and it's just like a kind of like Cheers style neighborhood restaurant, big red booths. They make an amazing vinegar chicken. It's on the corner, and it's just like the neighborhood spot that you just want to go to every night. And so we started becoming obsessed with it, and then we were like, let's live above Bernie's. So then we got an apartment above Bernie's so that we could go whenever we wanted and like live our neighborhood restaurant dreams. And I don't have that in LA because we live kind of up in the mountains, and you have to drive like 10 minutes to a restaurant. So I really miss my Bernie's.
This is my question.
Yeah.
What is your favorite spot that you've discovered in LA? And are you gatekeeping a place? And tell me after.
Am I gatekeeping? I
Because
don't think so.
you always tag the spots on your stories.
I know.
And that's how I find new restaurants in LA, so thank you.
Yeah. Okay, one that's amazing, that I haven't been gatekeeping, I haven't. It's called Old Sassoon Bakery, and it's in Pasadena. It's an Armenian bakery, and they make incredible khachapuri. It was last year one of my favorite bites of the whole year. Like, I remember distinctly being like, this is it. This is the best bite I've had. It has sujuk sausage in it and cheese and egg, and the dough is like impossibly fluffy and tender. Like, it melts in your mouth, but it's still like dough.
I'm going Saturday.
You gotta go. So that's like, it's a very small little bakery. I think they're expanding, but incredible.
What are your top weeknight recipes from the new book?
Okay.
Because you got the little lemon
Okay, yeah.
that tells us.
Yeah, there's a little guy, a little lemon character in the book that will suggest when a recipe is a quick recipe. So let me find an example. This is him. His name is Leroy the lemon, and he's in a hurry, so he's like running. And so any recipe that has Leroy says quick as heck, and so it's under 45 minutes. So those are all great weeknight recipes, obviously the Cozy Bowl being one of them. This is a breakfast recipe. It's the crispy rice egg in a hole, but we've made it for dinner so many times, Sophia loves. And you basically take leftover rice from whatever you had the night before and crisp it up in a nonstick skillet, and then flip it over and scoot the rice to the side and drop eggs in it the way you would an egg in a hole, but they're baked into crispy rice. So that's like a great, like, I have nothing planned, leftovers in the fridge kind of hack. And then what else is nice and quick? There's the, this is sort of not seasonal right now, but the ramen noodles with grated tomato sauce and chili oil. It's a no-cook tomato sauce, so you boil ramen noodles, which takes like 3 minutes, and you grate a couple of tomatoes, and you add grated garlic, sesame oil, lemon juice, soy sauce, and season it. and then you chill the noodles like in an ice bath and throw them in there, and it's like this really refreshing, almost like a tomato ponzu-esque sauce, and that takes like maybe like 13 minutes start to finish. So that's a great weeknight recipe when tomatoes are back in season. Don't do it
Yes,
otherwise.
don't do it now.
You're not allowed.
We know you controversially hate chocolate.
Yeah.
What's something you love that most people hate and deserves more love?
I feel like people have beef with mushrooms, or like my brother does anyway. And it's always, and Ben used to also, like, everybody always says mushrooms are like rubbery and flabby, and I'm like, that's because you're cooking them wrong.
Right.
And I don't like a rubbery, flabby mushroom either. That's pretty gross, but I love a crispy mushroom. And there is a recipe in the book for, I think it's, what is it called? Ramen with crispy mushrooms. And soy butter. And it's basically like a mashup of like a carbonara-esque dish with, it's like a mushroom carbonara, but with soy butter and parm.
Yeah.
And that will teach you the proper way to cook mushrooms, which for me means adding all of the mushrooms to a pot at the same time, which is something that like growing up or when I was first starting to cook, I was told never to do.
Yeah,
It's
single
like,
layer.
yeah, single layer, you gotta do like 17 batches, don't let them touch. Because of course, like if they're crowded, then they let out their moisture and then they steam and then you have the rubbery gross ones that my brother hates. And I discovered a technique a few years ago, which is so obvious, which is just like you put all the oil in the pot, you dump all the mushrooms, all 17 rounds of them into the pot, and you put it on high heat and you just let it rip. And you just walk in every 5 minutes or so and give it a stir, and they leach out their liquid, and it takes a while and it'll burble, and then eventually the liquid all evaporates and they start to crisp, and you don't have to stand over the pot transferring batch after batch after batch. It takes the same amount of time and like way less effort, because you're just letting time do it for you. So that's the best way to make mushrooms.
I'm doing that as soon as I get
And,
home.
Yeah, I hope you guys like mushrooms.
What is your favorite, possibly obscure kitchen utensil every beginner chef should have?
Obscure.
Possibly obscure. Doesn't have to be.
Possibly obscure. I always say that the best implement or tool that you can invest in for my recipes specifically is a microplane, because there's so much garlic and a lot of it is
48
grated.
cloves.
And 48 cloves. And there's a lot of citrus zest, mostly lemon zest, but also orange zest and lime zest. I love a zest. I love a zesty moment. And there's no better tool than a microplane. So I think everyone should own one, but probably you guys already do. And the other thing that I love, and I don't call for it in this book because it's kind of niche, is a mini prep food processor, which is like a little guy that's this big. And I use it 9 times out of 10 in place of a standard size food processor. The only thing I use a standard food processor for is if I'm making like a dough or a batter or something that requires one and it's voluminous. But all of my marinades and dressings, like a Caesar dressing on the fly and a pesto and any of that aioli mayonnaise, the mini prep is so amazing for it because you can like get it going.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have 3 cups of mayonnaise. And so it's great for like a family of 2, like us.
For someone just trying to cook herself dinner.
Or this, which
Like
you
me.
still haven't figured out how to do.
I'm working on it. 2024 goals. Best housewarming gift to give a host besides More is More and cook this book.
Drink this wine?
Absolutely.
I don't need an applause for that. That was an obnoxious answer. I'm like, plug.
All right, last question.
Okay.
If you were to describe your aesthetic, either home decor or food, in 3 words, what 3 words would you use?
Okay. Should I do food? I should do food. Oh my God, this is so hard.
There is a note that says you can't say butter.
bright. Okay, I'm getting nods. I'm not going to say salty. Are we good with that? Because it's not
Seasoned.
salty,
It's
it's seasoned.
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 Bright, seasoned, and a little bit wacky.
Yes.
That feels like me.
Beautiful.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming, and I think that we have Lisa Kirkby somewhere in the audience. Lisa, hi, who so graciously cooked a few of the recipes, the dessert recipes from my book. She made the pistachio halva brown butter chocolate chunk cookies. She made the spiced peanut shortbread and the Earl Grey apricot jam scones, and she made mini versions of them, and is throwing a surprise reception for all of you right out the doors you came in, I think. So
In the
thank you,
atrium.
Lisa. And thank you. Okay, let's go.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you.